feed her back, and I'll show you why the limiter is important.
Today on Exploring Limitations, we're going to be creating authentic sounding analog tape delay with stock plugins in a DAW. Here we go. I've been getting questions regarding my other music projects asking, how do you get those spacey dubby sounds? Surprise! Shock! Oh no! Turns out, Made on Tape Man didn't use real tape delay in that mix. To be frank, I didn't own the machines yet. So how can you get those sounds in a DAW? Come with me on a journey into the sometimes controversial stock plugin land.
Here we are. We are teaching you how to make a authentic sounding analog tape delay without any analog gear, totally in the box. And here we are. Let's just get straight to it. This is going to be about a 5.5, 6-step process in terms of what the plugin for your signal chain. Right now, let me just show you. I just have a little sample of my 505 snare. And it sounds like a kick drum, but that's actually a click track that I tuned down. So that's what we're going to be working with today. And the first thing that you got to do is create a effects send, a bus. There's already one here, but let me just walk you through it. We're creating a bus. That's your effect send, and I'm going to call it stock tape delay, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to build tape delay from stock plugins. So here you go. This is going to be about a 5-6 part process. But before I jump into that, you might be asking, hey, there's a stock tape delay plugin that comes with Logic, and I'm sure there's stock tape delay with almost every DAW these days. It's not bad. If you're going to use this, I would encourage you to mess around with the EQ, because real tape, as we'll talk about later, doesn't even go that high. Mess around with all these, but even, for me, it doesn't quite do it. It doesn't have enough flexibility. It still sounds like a digital plugin to me. So I'm going to get you closer. So the first thing in the chain, we'll get rid of this tape delay, and we're going to go with an echo. Now, if you remember from my real tape delay video, the beginning sounds of a tape is just one echo. So that's why we're going to start with the echo, and we're going to pull this feedback all the way off. Make sure the dry is off, dry signal off, and the wet is 100%. And in Logic, for some reason, it defaults to this color. Change that to 0. That's a EQ thing that they're being clever with, but we want it to be totally flat. So let's quickly hear what that straight up echo sounds like. See, it just sounds like the same signal, but echoed, right? So there we go. That's our start, and we'll be returning to this in a bit. Now, the second thing that you want in your chain is some kind of pitch shifting device. The reason for this is because real tape machines, especially ones that we associate with cool, spacey echo sounds, are either purposefully built or are just old and imperfect. And so this tape speed can affect the pitch very, very subtly, one way or another. So in Logic, we're going to be using the pitch shifter. Now, change the semitones to 0, because that's too extreme. Make the mix 100%. Let's go manual for the timing and just make it as fast as possible. And with the latency compensation, just because we want it to behave just as a pitch shifter. Now, really, we're just going to be living in these cents land. So for now, I'll just set it up to -12, and we'll mess with that later and show you what that sounds like in the chain. All right. Third thing in your chain is some kind of overdrive. You know, most of this analog gear has some kind of saturation or overdrive, whether it's the preamp going into it or the tape itself being oversaturated. So I'm just using the straight up stock plugin right here. And you know, these presets are pretty good. You know, I don't like, this is not my favorite plugin, but I'm going to go with warm drive for now. And we can mess with that later. Hot drive is pretty good too. Let's go with hot drive. All right, next thing that you need is some kind of EQ, a basic EQ. And the reason being is since we're in digital land, everything is so perfect on a computer, and you can record well past the human hearing spectrum. But old tape machines couldn't record that high. I mean, you're physically magnetizing metal particles, so there's a limit to that. So I'm just going to use the straight up Logic channel EQ. I'm going to put a what do you call this? A low pass filter. Bring it down. You know, we'll experiment with where to put it, but definitely around 10 and probably a little bit lower. Some of the tape delay machines had this built into them. My TX sitting right here, it doesn't record well past, it's not hitting much past 12, 14K. So golly gosh, definitely not 20. I wouldn't be able to hear that anyway. I'm too old to hear that stuff. Anyway, this is the the fourth thing in your channel that you need. Now, the final thing in the chain is going to be a limiter, because you'll see why we need the limiter in a moment, because set your output level to, you know, either -1, but I might actually bring it even lower, and you'll see why. No gain, just a limiter, a true limiter is what we need. Because now, here's where the fun, spacey, Spaceland echo stuff happens. Now, I'm still here in the stock tape delay channel, and we've created our little chain here. Now, this is where the magic happens. I'm going to do an aux send back into itself. So I sent it back into itself, and now this is your feedback. Ooh. And so both in real life and in the digital world, the reason I put a limiter at the end of this chain is because when you start feeding back into a tape, it gets wild. It can, within milliseconds, you can go from a very silent or, you know, barely there to you're going to blow your ears off. So this, I cannot stress how important it is to put a limiter at the end of this chain. Please, trigger warning, do not blow your ears off. So here we are. Let me pull up all these plugins, because you don't really need to see this snare drum, I don't think, right? It's just a basic snare. Let's hear it. I'm gonna pull it up, so you're just hearing that. That's our overdrive. That's our EQ. I'm gonna leave the limiter alone. So the signal chain, it goes from echo to pitch shifter to overdrive to channel EQ. All right, let's feed the snare in there. You can hear that distortion crunching it a bit. Now let's just feed back a little bit. Let me set this to pre-fader. This is the snare drum, and so that way I can pull the fader down, and you'll just be hearing the tape echo machine that we just created. So here we go. Let me turn that click off. It's pretty cool, because just like in real life, if you change the speed of the echo, there So now we're getting pretty dubby. Oh, I'm gonna high pass this too. That's pretty typical for tape delay. So let me introduce the snare back into it. Okay. Now let's feed her back and I'll show you why the limiter is important. All right, see, that limiter is pretty important. Now let's mess with the pitch. See how it's going up now? And obviously, let's go more extreme. I like this setting. Now let's mess with that overdrive a little bit. Careful with your ears. So that's pretty neat, huh? Now, let me pull it, let me show you what it sounds like without the EQ. Pull the snare down. See how you're getting the full EQ spectrum? This is pretty typical. Even that is pretty typical. It's pretty dark. Now I'm messing with the overdrive. I hope you can see, why and how this is cool. And really quickly, I'd like to show you, since we're in the DAW, one of my favorite things to do is not to have that going constantly in a song, but like to automate it. So I don't know what your DAW is like, but we're going to do some quick automation by hand. Sorry, not by hand, but by, it's called latch automation, where the computer will track what I do. So we're setting up this snare, and I'm starting with here, let's bring that snare signal back up so we can hear it in context. And I'm starting with the send to 0, to nothing. So we're just going to start with our regular beat, and then I'm going to show you what I might do in a real situation using this chain setup. See, got a beat. You see what I just did there? Let me play it back. I changed the automation to read. So yeah, this is I love doing this. especially like on one snare drum, like one snare drum hit, or in a song, like maybe one lyric. You'll hear that in Working Flakes music. I like it's, to me, it's really fun ear candy. So you've got this channel set up that you can automate sending this signal to. I'm going to delete that automation. If all you Mac users don't know, Control Command Delete, that'll just delete the automation that you see. It's a good shortcut. Let's quickly hear that a little bit in context of a groove. Last week, I made some music where the bass was playing behind the beat, and here's a little excerpt from that. It's not perfectly aligned to the grid, but it's close enough for this example. So that's pretty fun. Now, just to reiterate this chain, you can mess with any of this. Why not? Like, if you want to add feedback to the snare, go for it. If you want to go semitones, let's hear what that sounds like. I mean, that's not like a natural tape delay sound, but that's pretty cool. So now you've got way more parameters to work with in your tape delay signal chain, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, I love the natural stuff, but you can get some really close sounds on this. And again, this is just the stock. This is just the stock plugins. You know, before I started recording, I quickly set up my own little plugin chain from my plugins that I like. And let's just hear what that sounds like. I'm probably going to dive into this my personal plugin chain next week, because lo and behold, the Waves Factory cassette plugin definitely brings a lot of fire to this plugin chain that you can create tape delay on. So next week, if you're interested in seeing how to use the Waves Factory cassette plugin in this context, stay tuned for that. Anyway, back to you, other Made on Tape man.
Well, there you have it. The Made on Tape man is showing all you DAW users how to get the sound without spending the cash. Shout out to Attack Magazine for this simple plugin outline. Link to that article in the description below. It's possible I could get flack for this video, but I don't care. Music is very personal. We are all different. And your goal as an artist, a producer, engineer should be to tap into yourself. What makes you, you. Don't follow anyone to a T, but take inspiration from them and follow your gut. With that, as always, peace and be good to each other. My own strobe. Yeah.